Here are some ideas about sequences, and by a sequence I mean repeating some pattern in an order up or down a scale. And that pattern can be a lot of different things. It could just be the first 4 notes of the scale. This is A major in 5th position, what I call pattern number 1 of the major scale, of the 3-note per string major scales. So we could just play the first 4 notes, and that could be the pattern. And then we could sequence that by starting on the 2nd note of the scale, and then by the 3rd note of the scale, 4th note, 5th note, 6th note. Et cetera, through the rest of the scale. So the sequence I call the macro part. It's overall whether we're going up or down the scale. And the pattern is what I call the micro part. So in this case, the micro is going up, the pattern is going up, and overall, I'm walking up the sequence. But you can get some really interesting variations by mixing those two ideas together, descending one or the other, or combining them or whatever. So if we descended the micro part, in other words, went 4 notes down the scale, so I'd have to start on the 4th note in order to end on the 1st note, right? 4, 3, 2, 1. But then overall go up the scale. So as you can see, as I'm the pattern part, the small part, the micro part's going descending, going down, and overall the sequence is going up. And then when I get to the top, I could reverse that and go up the pattern, but down the scale as the sequence. So the key, or the purpose here is not to just play these patterns in your solo, but the purpose is to get little pieces of the scale out of order under your fingers. In other words, so you can jump in and out of these 4-note little pieces of the scale and mix and match them in your improvisations or in your writing or whatever. So it's not really the purpose to do this in a solo. I think most people would find that fairly boring to listen to because it's kind of predictable and you just hear it. So it wouldn't be bad to do every once in a while or for brief periods or something. But if all your solos are made up of these things, it's gonna be pretty boring. So the key here is to maybe discover some little quirks about the picking, which you can't see, but you end up having to skip strings and combine ups and downs and string crossings and things like that. So those little things that can be kind of hang-ups in your technique, you can iron them out by doing these sequences, hopefully. And by doing the sequences in a systematic way, you can you can find little pieces of the scale that are problematic and keep working on them until they get smoothed out. So some other patterns besides the 4-note one, you can do the just 3 notes. And again, we've got the micro piece, which is just 3 notes. And the overall, if I'm going up or down the scale with each new starting. So you can hear those little 3-note spiraling patterns. They sound pretty cool. So that was the 3-note sequence. You could do a skipping one where you play a note and skip every other note and then go on the 2nd note. So this ends up being diatonic thirds. And one more about the mixing ascending and descending. You could also do one of each. Like you could do ascend one time and then go up the scale but descend the next one, and then ascend the 3rd one, descend the 4th one. So the key here is, again, finding little finger combinations that you can bring out in your improvisations, not to do the whole pattern up and down the entire scale, but to have the freedom to be able to have those instincts in your fingers to be able to move around easily from within the scale. So the key points here: micro is the small piece, which can be basically any combination of notes. It could be 3 in a row, 4 in a row. It could even be a mix of scale and skip. So you could do something like you know, play 2 notes in a row and then do a skip. I heard an interview with Michael Brecker, and he said he used to do that a lot. Take an idea, kind of some random grouping of notes, and then move it around chromatically and diatonically through scales and things like that, just to get his facility together. So he's a guy that had a lot of facility, so I think that would be a good thing to practice. It can be other things like triads. And again, you can mix and match these ideas of micro ascending and macro ascending, or you could do micro descending. I think that's the interlude to the Dirty Dancing song, I Had the Time of My Life. They do that little sequence in there. You can mix them together and do one ascending, one descending. You could do that. So that was triads. You could do 7th chords. And then you could do those descending. Of course, you can, on the way down, you would want to mix it in the opposite way. Go up the... So that was going up the 7th chord arpeggios, but going down the scale. So micro ascending, macro descending. And you can mix and match those two, go up one, down the next, up one, down the next. So that kind of facility with 7 chords is really going to help you pull out these different diatonic 7ths from within the scale, so you don't have to always play them in order. I think some people get stuck going, you know, always starting on the root or always beginning their scale patterns on the root. And if you practice them backwards, you'll be able to play them backwards, and that's kind of a good thing. So in summary, we've got the pattern part, which is just the sequence of notes that I call the micro part, and then we've got the sequence itself. If you're going up or down the scale in steps, or you could do it in thirds or fourths or fifths or something. It's to me sounds less like a sequence when you do that. So there's the micro part, the macro part, the ascending and descending, and the mixed part. And with that, you can get a lot of different combinations of patterns, and something probably you could practice something different every day. Throw in the 12 keys and 7 different scale fingerings for the major scales. Throw in the harmonic minor and melodic minor, and that is a ton of stuff to practice. And I didn't even mention inversions, like you could do triad inversions. So there's first inversion, that's actually an F sharp minor arpeggio. So those are first inversion arpeggios, or you could do second inversion arpeggios. Myself here. Anyway, you could do second inversion arpeggios and do those in micro and macro, ascending and descending, and it's really a ton of stuff to work on. Something I still do all the time and could probably do more of, obviously, from that demonstration there. So I hope that gives you some new ways of practicing your scales, but again, don't fall into the rut of actually doing these like during your solo or whatever, because it can sound, I don't know, kind of repetitive. A guy who did a really great job with this, Stevie Wonder, in the breakdown to Sir Duke, the "There's Stacy Miller, Satchmo, and the king of all Duke. With a voice like Ella's ringing out the way the band can moves. That's the interlude to Sir Duke, and it's all a B major pentatonic scale. And within that, you might have heard some of those sequences, like but he does a lot of rhythmic variation, and he doesn't just go straight up and down those pentatonic scales. But that's a way that those patterns come out in real life. Another one is Journey, who's had like a huge resurgence lately, but the song Lights. Whatever he does for that thing. The solo is, he does a whole bunch of stuff in the solo, but it's sort of D major. Now here's the sequence. It's a D major pentatonic sequence that he plays the skipping sequence, descending micro and descending macro, and you could do it from within pattern 1 of D major, and he just goes let's see, I forget how he ends it, but you can see somehow at the end he breaks out of the pattern. But that's how people use sequences tastefully, I think, and most of the time not just going straight up and down the scale, or at least not exclusively doing that. It starts to sound like a sewing machine or something, not very cool. So have fun with the sequences.